Hello, guys, and welcome to episode 9 of the Network Podcast. My name is Sebastiano and today my co-host Joseph Inzano is back.
What's going on, guys?
All right, so today our episode is going to be all about sports. Now, I know last episode with Costa, that was specifically about soccer. This one, we're going to talk about all different types of sports. So instead of doing the typical overrated or underrated, we both have picked our most overrated sport and our most underrated sport. So let's go with overrated first. Joe, what did you put down as your most overrated sport?
All right, to be clear, this isn't playing. This is just for watching, like viewing purposes. And I went with basketball.
Okay.
I just don't think it's
okay.
that exciting to watch, especially during the regular season. And, you know, it obviously picks up in the playoffs and especially in the finals. But during the regular season, man, I couldn't see myself watching a game.
Yeah, I didn't put down basketball. I'll get down to what I put in a second. But, yeah, I do not watch it at all in the regular season. Now in the playoffs, I try and watch it a little bit. But my older brothers always had the same criticism. Most of the time, it doesn't really matter until the end of the game. So sometimes it's like, it's hard to get hyped up. Even if the team you want is up by 10, you're spending the whole game wondering if they can hold that lead, or you're waiting for them to hold that lead. Regardless, I think it's decent to watch.
Not just that,
I definitely understand where you're coming from.
Especially these past few years with, you know, Golden State going to the finals, you kind of know what teams are making the playoffs already. You know what I'm saying, with the power, with like these super teams that they make. And
well, yeah,
you almost know what teams are gonna be, you know, I'm not saying in the finals, but in the playoffs. So I don't know.
The Warriors, they didn't make it this year or last year, but I know what you mean. They had like those years of dominance. Then this year, it's the Nets that everyone say they made a super team. Even though they ended up being the second seed, I believe. They're currently 3-2 up on the Bucks, and they're playing Game 6 right now. So even then, everyone kind of like expects them to win, and then if they do win it all, that's like, who cares? They build a super team, kind of just like the Warriors did. But yeah, especially the regular season, you have players that do load management that are just like, I can't play every game of the season. I'm just going to sit out this one. It's like, as long as you're good the majority of the season, that's all that matters.
Imagine going
to the playoffs is when everyone can magically play.
Imagine going to your first Lakers game and LeBron takes off for load management.
That was the big argument. Like, that would honestly be so horrible. I can't imagine someone taking off for, especially like a player's decision. Like in soccer, at least, sometimes it's the coach like, all right. Well, basketball, the schedule is kind of spaced out throughout the season. In soccer, sometimes it's like, all right, this week we'll have like 3 games in like the space of 10 games. Then we'll have like no midweek games. So it's like, I'm going to rest these players for this team and these tactics. But basketball, just like, all right, you play your best players. And sometimes the players, I guess, are just like, nah, load management for this one.
What do you think about the super teams? Like, there's really no other sport that you could really put together a super team with. You know what I'm saying? Just that the bench is small enough, I guess.
Well, it can. I don't know enough about every single sport, but with soccer, you can do that, and it has happened because there's no salary cap on everything. I know I'd say the sport I am familiar with a little bit is football. I know there is a certain rule that you have a certain amount of cap space. So like you can't just buy everyone unless you don't pay them all a ton of money. Because like the best players want the best money, so they can't all go to the same team. Of course, you have great teams because, you know, you get a good draft pick and you draft someone good. You get a veteran here, then you get a player in their prime here, and eventually it adds up. But it's a lot harder to get these super teams. Yeah, in basketball, I don't know the exact rules of basketball with cap space. It seems like there are no rules. All I know is that
I think
it's not like soccer where you can. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there are salary cap rules in basketball, but I'm pretty sure you could carry over years, like if you don't use the money. So you could like save up to just give a bunch of players max deals. I'm pretty sure that's what the Nets did. Don't quote me on that. I might be wrong, but I think that's how it works.
Yeah, I can't back that up just because I don't know enough about it. I don't know exactly how that works. But I mean, that is why some people want to see more things put into play. I mean, it's just
What do you?
everyone thinks sports would be more entertaining if it was more even. If you look at like what we watch, Formula One, this season's been a little bit better, but past couple of years it's been Mercedes have literally dominated. Lewis Hamilton specifically. Everyone wants to make it more even, and then that goes back to money as well. Although some teams like Ferrari have the same, if not more, money, it's like they're not gonna Haas. Some of the teams at the bottom aren't gonna compete with them because they have significantly less funds.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
What were you
that's
gonna ask?
a really different. That's a lot different from basketball and stuff. But no, I was gonna say I was gonna ask like, what do you think about a player joining a super team and going to win a champion like something like Kevin Durant did, and like leaving Oakland to go to and join Golden State. Do you think that
Left Oklahoma, you mean the
Oh,
Thunder?
yeah, my bad.
Yeah, I think in the moment people will be like, "Oh, he's a snake," but then when he's done playing and you look at his legacy, no one's gonna remember. Oh, he left OKC to join a super team. They'll be like, "Wow, he won this many rings. These are his stats. These are how many points." I feel like in the long term, no one's gonna care as much. But you also have to think about it as a player's perspective. It's like they play to win. And I was actually listening to a podcast. I know I always bring it back to soccer, but as a fan of a specific team, you can never sympathize with players because as a fan, you would give anything to be in the position there and to play for your favorite team. But in their position, it's like, yeah, they may like the team, but their goal is to win or perhaps even make money for themselves, for their children, for their grandchildren, to set them better off. So you also have to think about it. It's their job at the end of the day, no matter how much they love the sport. And it's like, I personally don't think that it's that bad. At the end of the day, your goal is to win. If your goal wasn't to win, why would you be playing? What are your opinions on it?
I think that's a good point, but I feel I don't want to say cheating. It's not cheating, but it's almost like taking the easy way out to something that would mean more. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he stayed and won it with Russ, obviously it would mean a lot more than him hopping. I don't know. I don't know about that, actually. I mean, I'm not in that spot, but I feel like as a fan, I definitely respect him more. Yeah, tough to say.
I know what you mean because, like, yeah, how nice it would have been because they also had Harden at one point, and like, look how good Westbrook, Harden, and Durant are now. If they all stayed at that team, then again, will they all have become as good as they are now if they stayed together? And it probably would have been nice to see them win it at OKC. At the end of the day, you also have to think that like time is against them, especially. I don't want to say especially in basketball. They don't always play for that long, and they're certainly not going to be in their prime for that long. They can't waste any years. They can't wait for their organization to get their stuff together and get better players and get a better coach and for their teammates to grow. They got to win, and they got to win as soon as possible because only one team can win every year, obviously. And it's like it's not likely that you're going to win multiple years, so you got to take your chance when you can. So I understand why people are frustrated, but I think a little bit that you gotta do what you can to win.
Yeah. All right. What's your favorite? Or well, not your favorite. What's your most overrated?
My most overrated sport. Again, we did do it to watch. First one that came to mind was baseball. No. Now that I think about it, it might not be overrated to watch because literally everyone says how much it sucks to watch. But I don't know. I think it's just not the most fun sport to watch, especially between pitches. It's like it feels like they take 30 seconds to pitch, and then if it's a ball or a strike, it's just like, all right, we got to wait another 30 seconds for something that may or may not happen. Yeah, I just think that's first one that came to mind, in my opinion. What do you think about baseball?
I don't have much to say. I'd rather watch golf or something else, you know.
And if you're comparing it to golf, then I think we have the same opinion. I actually wrote down 2 for underrated, so I want to hear yours for underrated first.
Oh, you go first.
Sport to watch.
I want to hear where yours is first.
All right. I'll say one of mine.
Okay.
One of mine is tennis. I don't ever go out of my way to watch it, but if it's on, or I remember a couple years ago I was on vacation and they were showing, I believe, Wimbledon everywhere, and it is pretty interesting to watch. I know people are like, oh, it's just going back and forth, but you have like the each set, and then what is it? You have to win 3 first to 6. I don't know the correct terminology. I believe it's first to 6 match. No, I don't know. You have to win like 6 games. I know games isn't the right thing to win a set, I believe. And then when you win 3 sets, you win the match? Something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I don't know the correct terminology, but I know what tennis players, you guys know what I'm talking about. I just don't know the exact name for them. But yeah, I find tennis pretty interesting to watch, especially you get some good rallies, and the athletes in tennis are really, really good. So I think it's good to see them going at it. Especially because in things like Wimbledon, it's pretty evenly matched. It's not like other sports you see the first round of competition. Sometimes teams just get smoked, even if it is a better tennis player against a worse one. It's still usually a good match. So I would say tennis is underrated. It seems like no one really cares about it that much besides like the hardcore tennis fans. So I think that's definitely underrated.
What's your second one?
Joe, on to yours.
You said you had 2.
All right, my second one was hockey, just because
Wow.
I know you obviously play hockey. I was just thinking, not a lot of people seem to be into it, but I think it's pretty fast paced, and the what is it called? The rink or the field is so small that you can go one side to another. Things can happen quickly. It's not like basketball, where even though basketball obviously also has a small court, the points don't matter as much. There are probably, I'd say, more goals in hockey than soccer, but still goals are important. They're not that easy to come by. So I think hockey would be another underrated sport to watch. Mm-hmm. What was yours going to be?
Mine was tennis. Every time tennis comes on, I find myself watching it. But yeah, I don't know too much about it. But every time it comes on, I find myself, end up watching it for a while. It's good. I don't know much else to say. I don't know much about it.
I didn't think we'd have the same ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, good to see we're on the same wavelength.
Mm-hmm.
Now that kind of brings us into our next topic, which we're gonna rank sports to watch. So the ones that we have written down are soccer, hockey, basketball, baseball, football, boxing, UFC, and I'm gonna add tennis because we talked about it.
I feel like we're gonna upset
You want to put golf here too?
No, that would probably be sitting with baseball at the bottom.
All right, never mind.
You could add it.
All
I
right,
mean,
so
it's gonna be put on.
Let's start at the bottom, work our way up. So we, just to reiterate, soccer, hockey, basketball, baseball, football, boxing, UFC, tennis, golf. 9 sports. We're between baseball and golf at the bottom. Let's be honest here. What do you think is more boring to watch?
Dude, it's tough. I play a little bit of golf now, so I'd like to say baseball is sitting at the bottom.
See, I would say baseball is a little bit more interesting than golf, but I've never really watched golf. And since you've been doing up a little bit of Tiger Woods action lately, I'll give you golf second to bottom. So we'll do golf second to bottom.
It's super close for last place there.
Yeah, so if you have any baseball or any people that like watching baseball and people that like watching golf and you're listening to this podcast, just know you are a loser. All right, so let's go third. Let's go third from the bottom. What are you thinking here?
Third from the bottom, I'd have to put basketball. Or maybe
okay. I think basketball.
What else are you putting under it?
I don't mind watching basketball. if we're going to try and do this from an unbiased opinion, I think I might put soccer, because as a soccer fan, I love watching soccer, but I can understand why people find it boring. It's not always the most fast-paced, especially if you don't have like two good teams going against each other.
If it was a regular season soccer match versus a regular season basketball match versus like some midfield teams, I would rather watch soccer. Like, that's just
that's true. It's also a little bit different in soccer, because basketball, the regular season doesn't really matter at all. It's like, you got to pick up your wins to make the playoffs. But once you're in the playoffs, you're in the playoffs. With most soccer leagues, it's like every game matters, because it's just like whoever comes first at the end of the season wins it all. It's not like top 8 qualify to the playoffs.
Right, but that makes the
at
sport...
least in each nation's league.
That makes it more interesting to watch.
Yeah. Yes, I'd agree with you. Basketball and then soccer. Now, I put boxing and UFC here to
boxing,
add
we could
something. I'm not avid watchers of either,
fighting.
But I think they're both kind of interesting.
We could have fighting in one category. Or like, if you want to separate them.
We're gonna upset some people because boxing and UFC.
I watch both. No, right. I actually only watch UFC. I don't watch any boxing, but... That's not true.
I mean, I watched a little bit. Like, I don't really know anything about boxing, but like I do want to watch who is it? Wilder and Fury. I think they're fighting for a third time. I do kind of want to watch that. And if it's like a big fight now, maybe I'll watch it.
Yeah.
So, you want to put fighting above soccer?
Are we doing fighting, or are we combining them, or are we?
Well, we'll say it's fighting, but then in brackets, boxing and UFC. I'm sure some hardcore fight fans will be slightly offended by that, but just know we don't really know that much about either. And to us, it's kind of the same from the outside looking in.
I'd probably have tennis above soccer. That's what I'd have next, because I think UFC. I'd rather watch that than tennis.
Okay. I think I'd rather watch tennis, but I'll go with you. So we're going to go tennis above soccer.
It's going to be controversial.
I don't know. It depends. Because, like, tennis, I don't really watch either of them often. I'm trying to think. Although this would never happen. You're right. If there was a big tennis match going on, I wouldn't really put it on. Like, I wouldn't go out of my way. But if it was, like, McGregor, like I said, Wilder and Fury, I'd probably be like, let me see if I can watch that. So I agree with you there. Tennis and then fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, encompasses boxing, UFC. All right, so what do we have left?
We got
hockey and
football. Hockey, fighting, and football. And it's going to be controversial.
Tennis.
I've got fighting. I've got it above football.
Oh, I just put fighting above tennis.
Yeah, I've got it above football too. Now, it's super biased, obviously, because I got hockey at the top. But that's just because I've watched hockey forever, you know what I'm saying? Your list, it's different. What are you thinking? You're going to have football at number 1? I just find football really boring sometimes. Like, really boring sometimes.
No, I can see why football can be boring, and there's... The way I always see it, or one thing that bothers me about football, is in sports like hockey and soccer, which I know they're not the same, obviously, but the reason I see them as similar is because it's like no team is ever guaranteed possession. The goals are pretty important because they're not easy to come by in those sports.
Mm-hmm.
But with something that I don't like about football is a team is guaranteed possession, although there are things like turnovers, fumbles, and interceptions. It's like realistically a good team and a good quarterback knows how to use the clock. They know how to keep the ball. They know how to protect the ball. I feel like there's a little bit not less room for error. There is less room for error because in soccer you can make a bad pass, or if you're going to attack, it's not necessarily going to end up in a goal, but it could end up in you losing the ball. You know what I'm trying to say? It's like in football, if you're on the attack, and you're good at it, you know what you're doing. Like the Chiefs, for example, they probably get at least a touchdown or a field goal every time they get the ball. They're going on a drive. But with soccer, just like, okay, maybe you're go for a chance, then it goes out of bounds, then it's the other team's ball. I feel like there's more chances for each team. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I get what you're trying to. I get what you're saying. I think there's also, it's constant action in hockey and soccer. Well, maybe a little bit less soccer compared to football, where there's a lot of breaks, and even with basketball, sometimes just towards the end of the game. But with hockey, at least everyone's always moving. It's constant action. It's you're always kind of. I'm not sure. I'm probably a lot of people disagree with me here, but that's okay. I'm not really. It's whatever. I think
I know what you're saying. There are commercials during the period sometimes, right?
Yeah, they have commercial
like
breaks
with timeouts and stuff.
Yeah.
That's the one good thing that soccer has. People may call it boring, but you know when it's going to start, even though there is a little bit of added time at the end of halves. You know they're going to play 45 minutes, no breaks, maybe an injury, but it never cuts to commercial.
Maybe a couple injuries.
All right, 45 minutes. Yeah. So you're going to have the first half, a 15-minute break, and the second half. It's not like football. You literally have no idea how long it's going to take. You don't know when the commercials are going to happen between quarters and halftime and stuff like that. It's kind of the same in basketball. It's like my younger brother the other night was like, oh yeah, let me just watch the last minute of the game. In basketball, you have no idea how long that's going to take. That can take, same with football. The last couple minutes of the game can take like 20 minutes. That's not even an exaggeration. One team gets the ball, let's say someone get injured, commercial. Then if it's a close game, they're going to try and foul them, and that just, the clock goes like 1 second every 3 minutes. It's like, it's kind of ridiculous at some point. But to get back to our list,
would you put UFC over football?
I'm going to say no personally, because going on, even though I went on that whole rant about football, going myself personally and thinking about worldwide, I feel like I'll watch football every Sunday if I get the chance, like 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock game and the night game. Even if it's like not the best teams playing, like in our area, we get the Jets and the Giants. They've kind of sucked the past few years, but I'll still watch them play even if they're playing another bad team. But with UFC and like boxing, I wouldn't really even watch the undercards, or if it's not a fight that I know the two people of. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I get what you're saying.
But then again, it is like which one's more interesting to watch. So I would.
It's also personal preference. What would you rather? What would you rather see? Lately I've really been enjoying UFC, and I'd definitely watch it over football. And the thing about UFC is, like every single, UFC, there's a title fight with, big, two stars going at it basically as the main card. Whereas with football, it's not like that every single week, but I don't know. Like if it were to be if it were to be the Super Bowl versus like Conor McGregor versus Poirier, I don't know. It's tough.
Nah, that would be the Super Bowl all day. But obviously they never schedule that at the same time.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's up there for me. Maybe I just don't like football. I definitely don't like football as much as other people, but
yeah, you're not the biggest football fan as
I'm sure Zach
to other people.
Zach would say other. Zach would be picking the Super Bowl any day.
Yeah, because I'm trying to be unbiased, but I put soccer on the bottom half, but then I'm like saying football over fighting. I think
I don't know.
We'll keep it like this. I'm gonna keep it hockey at number 1.
Even hockey number 1 feels biased. You know what I'm saying? Like it feels
biased, but you think of the fundamentals of the sport. I think it's the most difficult sport. If not, it's got to be one of the most difficult sports. Personally, I can't even ice skate, let alone skate at quick speeds, turn, go backwards, go fast. Then you have to deal with the puck and your positioning and all that. For me, that seems like unthinkable.
It's not just like that. I think the playing field is like, it's very close. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole league is very close in terms of skill. And you know, with the team's caps and everything, you know, there's the worst team could be the best team. You know, probably, I'm not sure, but you know, just a couple, like I think 2 years ago, you know, the Blues were 31st in the league at the halfway point in the season, and then they went on to win the cup. You know what I'm saying? Like that probably wouldn't happen in a sport like basketball. It definitely wouldn't happen in basketball.
Yeah, that's true. I was just thinking, if the worst team in the league played, let's say last year, because who won the Lightning won the Stanley Cup, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if the team that came in last and the Lightning, I don't know who was ever the worst team last year, if they played each other 10 games in a row, how many do you think that the worst team would win?
I think it would be 7-3.
See, I feel like that's pretty even for the best and the worst, because I'm trying to think of soccer, especially the English Premier League is what most people watch, and like occasionally you get the upsets here and there, like, you know, the bottom of the league will beat or like tie the top of the league. But if I go to the hockey example and I say champions Manchester City and this year's bottom place Sheffield United, I think City win at least 8, and they maybe lose one and then tie the other. But I'd say it's like a comfortable like 8 to 9 games if they played in a row.
It's tough to say because there's always like a few teams, like a very few teams in hockey that are like really stragglers. You know what I'm saying? Like the Florida Panthers, I probably couldn't even name too many players on that team. So I don't know how they'd fare against, you know, the Lightning. But there are teams like, you know, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Toronto Maple Leafs, you know, that have 3-4 huge superstars, and you know they can't even make it past the first round of the playoffs. It's just kind of like stuff like that makes the sport cool, I feel like. Whereas you're probably not seeing.
I feel like.
I mean, I don't know. You know, you did see, you know, the Lakers go home early this year, but LeBron's getting old.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I did watch a prediction video and someone had the Lakers winning it all, but then especially with injuries and stuff, they were like the 8th seed first of all, 7th or 8th seed, which injuries did hamper them a bit. But I feel like I feel like we're just this is like
the Rip on Basketball,
bully basketball
show.
This podcast. Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest, like. The Lakers won it last year. Oh, who won it the year before that? Oh, the Warriors, who were in the final like the past 3 years. Occasionally, LeBron's
watching.
Oh no, I'm sorry. The Raptors won it 2 years ago. It wasn't the Warriors.
Watching the Warriors,
but yeah, it's stuff like that. It's like, yeah,
watching the Warriors versus the Cavaliers when, like, you know, Curry faced off versus LeBron and Kyrie. That was cool. Like the finals, watching those finals, that was cool. But I don't know. I couldn't see myself watching regular season games.
Yeah, maybe I'm being biased. I'm trying to think of soccer. Like, if you look at this specific league, like the English league, oh, Man City won it. Shocker. They have the best team by far. They've invested the most into their team. They literally have like 2 starting 11s. And even if they played their second starting 11, they could definitely come top half of the table, if not like top 8, maybe even better than that. So it's crazy how much they have. So maybe I am just like being hard on basketball because the soccer, it could be the same. But then you look at a team like Chelsea, who won the Champions League, which is, I'd say, the Premier League, and each respective league is harder to win because you have to be consistent throughout the season. The Champions League is like you play some group stage games every other week, and you really just have to hit form at the right times to win it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
it's like you're never playing like a bunch of games consecutively. So just like you just got to play well when it counts.
I think you're right. I think
So
I think I ripped on basketball a little too much. I think the playoffs is really good, but I think it lacks in the regular season. And I think it's the super teams that causes the problems, because then there's not really that competitive of a regular season. You know, to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, because I'm looking at it and I'm just like, yeah, and I'm just thinking like, oh yeah, basketball super teams. But then I look at soccer, you have like teams like PSG.
It's not the
that can
same.
just spend insane. And there's supposed to be financial fair play rules, but Manchester City clearly, I don't want to say clearly, but they broke them last year. But I don't know exactly the scenario, but basically they said they got income.
Mm-hmm.
They just said they got extra money from their sponsors or something like that. And UEFA fined them because they broke the rules, and they wanted to ban them from further competition like the Champions League for 2 seasons. But the issue with like teams that have the money and the resources of Manchester City can't go against the corporation of UEFA that's supposed to run like the Euros, for example, the Champions League. It's just like they can't face them, because who's going to support the Champions League when you have teams that are able to spend billions of dollars on players, let alone like the lawyers and stuff? They're just like, all right, we know you broke the rules, but we're going to let you
don't do it again.
Get off with a fine. Yeah, that's basically what they did. Everyone said, oh, a slap on the wrist. Like, what precedent is that sending for every other team? They're just like, so basically we can spend as much money as we want if we can get it, because you have like these insanely rich people. Lately it's been like people in the Middle East, like the Saudis that are buying, I believe I don't want to get this right, he's definitely Middle Eastern. I believe Sheikh Mansour, the owner of Man City, is Saudi, and they just have like all the oil money, everybody calls it. PSG as well. They just get pretty much unlimited funds, and then the corporation UEFA is just like, we don't really have any way of punishing you guys, at least that severely, that the teams would have to think twice before spending all these money on players and building the super teams.
I mean, you're talking about soccer, which I don't know as much about, but like, you know, if I could relate it to like Formula One at all, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the one thing I really don't like about Formula One is how the money is, you know, distributed to the teams, and how the gap between the teams is so large. You know who's winning the season before the season even starts, or you know who.
Yeah.
You know, there's little fights here and there, and it's
yeah. You may not know who's winning this season, although Mercedes have the past year. This year it's a little bit more even, but you know Haas isn't going to come close to competing with Mercedes, and even
not even close.
You saw in Drive to Survive, Haas doesn't have nearly the money. So they were going for a brand deal or a deal with the company to get themselves more money. And I'm not saying Schumacher doesn't deserve it, because he's clearly better than Mazepin, but they were like, you want this money, you need to have a German driver, because it was a German company.
Mm-hmm.
So it's stuff like that. Like, is it really on merit? And Mazepin is also, he brings all those Russian sponsorships. You have certain drivers like Latifi for Williams, who's bringing all the sponsorships.
Dude, a lot
from Canada and stuff.
Have you heard about how much it actually costs to like do an F2 season and an F3 season?
A lot,
dude. It's like,
which is why it's like almost only the rich. Like pretty much everyone in F1 is rich, because if you don't have money, you can't get into it. Are you looking it up right now?
I'm looking up how much it costs to be in an F2 season.
For everyone that's listening and it's a little bit lost, Formula One is racing. And Formula One is like the top. That's like the most professional. And then to get into it, you have like lower leagues kind of, which usually has younger drivers, like Formula 2, Formula 3. And then there's also like, they all start off at karting when they're really young. I don't know the exact progression besides like F2, F3. And then like the Renault series I always see brought up. I don't know the exact progression between that, but it's like an insane amount of money.
F2 costs around F2 costs around $750,000 a year to race in. $750,000 a year. How is me or you or anyone that wants to, I'm not saying, but like if I was an aspiring, Formula One driver, where am I coming up with 750 grand a year? You know what I'm saying? That's unbelievable. Like that's why nobody's gonna.
Yeah.
No one. That's no wonder nobody watches Formula One. It's impossible to.
That's also why there's so much politics. It's like every team building a car. I don't even know how much a Formula One car is worth, and it's got to be crazy. Think of all the technology that's put into it, but it's also like Formula 2. You're probably not gonna, if you're that good, you're not gonna spend that many seasons in it. But that's why you see all these younger drivers. They have to get sponsored by a team like Ferrari, like Giovinazzi sponsored by Ferrari. You have like Russell and Ocon that are sponsored by Mercedes since they were young, because if these little kids, even karting or as they get older, if they don't get a sponsorship from a big company that's going to help pay for all this and basically invest in them, we're like, all right, we're going to sponsor you, and in return, you're going to make your way up and you're going to end up repaying us either with money or with brand deals or by wearing our logo on your helmet and giving them ads that way.
Yeah. And guys,
all right.
If you really, if you think we're completely lame talking about Formula One, watch Drive to Survive, see how you like it. That's the only reason we watch it now, because we started watching Drive to Survive and we thought it was good. So give it a watch. It's on Netflix.
That is true. Yeah, the series Drive to Survive on Netflix. Joe got us all into it, at least our friend group. He was like, watch it. And then after that, we're a little bit hooked. Although now that we watched an actual season and then Drive to Survive after that, we're like, the series does embellish things a little bit with like audio that doesn't match the video that's going on. But anyway, we've talked about money and all these sports long enough. Next thing, which might be our last topic because we dragged those out for a while.
Right.
Actually, I want to cover two more things. First of all, if you could be a professional athlete in any sport, which one would it be? And first of all, would it be hockey? Because if it's hockey, then pick a different sport.
Okay, so all right, we'll pick different sports. Yours can't be soccer, mine can't be hockey. All right?
Yeah, because mine would definitely be soccer.
All right, mine would be hockey too. So I don't think. All right. So favorite sport. All right, you want to go first here, so I can think about my.
I'm just gonna be thinking out loud a little right now. I'm thinking football or basketball. I know we were just ripping on basketball this whole time tonight. But I'm trying to think of like the atmosphere, how popular it is. Basketball is a really popular sport. There are a lot of viewers, a lot of ads that come along with it. It's kind of hype. I think I'm going to go with football, actually. Although saying that, at my genetic height and build, I don't know exactly what position I would be, because on the offense, I would just get smoked by anyone. Obviously not big enough to be offensive lineman, quarterback, any position on the offense. Defense, I thought being a cornerback would kind of be cool, but even after, trying to guard some of our friends, it's like it's so impossible to guard someone, especially if you have a good quarterback. So I don't know what position. Maybe I wouldn't mind being a water boy or like a second or third string quarterback. You know what I mean?
Water boy. Say you were
check. Don't really have to do anything.
Say you're the best player in the league. Which sport would you want to play? You're the best player in the league.
Football.
You'd want to do football. I'm going with.
I'm trying to think because.
I'd go with UFC. I'd go with UFC. Be like a Conor McGregor.
Really?
Be like a Conor McGregor of the world. That'd be something. I think better than any wide receiver, better than any quarterback.
I'm sure after.
Obviously,
I don't know as much about UFC, and also even if you win, you're gonna get your fair share of beatdowns. Especially, I don't know if people would say Conor's the best. He did get beaten by Khabib.
That's true. I'm saying
lost to Poirier last time, but I know what you mean.
Maybe most popular.
He's like the biggest character, and when you think UFC, you think Conor McGregor.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah. So I would say, I'm just gonna stick with football, but I'm also trying to think like, if I was the best player at my sport, I want to affect the game the most. And sports like soccer, when there are 11 players on the field, being the best player isn't going to affect it as much. But when you think of sports like basketball, when there are only 5 people on your team on the court,
Mm-hmm.
being the best in your sport is a much greater advantage than like football when there's 11 on offense and 11 on defense, soccer and there's 11 on the field and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I would still say football just because I enjoy watching it. If I would play football, I'd probably say I'd be a quarterback if I would be the best in my position. I mean, look at what Tom Brady's done, you know? I could be Tom Brady. That seems like a nice life. Win 6 Super Bowls. But I would say, I don't know why. I just quite like football. I can see why you'd like UFC. Like, if I was filthy and I know I was going to be the best and it would be, I wouldn't have to take that many beatings, then yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah, that's what I was inferring.
I don't know. Maybe if it wasn't football, instead of basketball and going down the fighting route, I prefer boxing to UFC. Just from what I've seen, I feel like. No, the reason is because I would think about myself doing it, and like boxing would be really cool to learn. Like it's great for fitness too. Like the pad work is really, really satisfying. With UFC, there's like so much more technical stuff that goes into it. You do have some striking, like punching, kicking, and then you also have like the wrestling, which seems a little bit more patient from what I know of the sports. Once again, not an expert.
Yeah, it's a lot less exciting watching a Khabib fight compared to two guys that'll just, go at it in the middle of the ring. But, boxing, it could be a bit of a hug fest too. I mean, watching Ruiz versus Joshua too, that wasn't the most exciting fight. I don't know if you watched that.
Was that the one that Ruiz won the first one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Joshua just like smoked him in the second one.
I don't know about smoke, but it was a lot of kind of running around the ring and playing like a lot of defensive boxing on Joshua's side. A lot of people said he was just running away, but it wasn't as exciting as the first fight.
All right, so I guess to wrap up this segment, you'll go UFC, I'll go boxing, and then we can do a little Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather type fight at the end. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Probably every basketball, football fan's gonna hate me after listening to this, but no, that's kind of it.
Yeah, baseball fans, they might hate us just because we glossed over it, but like your sport kind of sucks. I mean, let's be honest.
Not a baseball.
Yeah, maybe
fan.
It's fun to play. Maybe like come on, guys, baseball out of all the sports, like maybe it's a little bit more interesting in college, kind of like basketball, which I kept thinking about. We didn't even bring up
college basketball.
College basketball, especially with March Madness, I love watching March Madness.
Yeah, but the only reason I watch it is because you bet. It's not because if there was no betting in March Madness, you would not watch the tournament. You wouldn't watch the tournament. You wouldn't.
Just to bring up one thing before we end, I've had to sit through Joe. Besides last year, because there was no March Madness. Every year after like a couple rounds, he's like, "Dude, I just need a few more things to go my way. I just need Michigan to reach the semifinal, bro. I could win like $1,000." The very next day, oh my gosh, dude, they lost. I thought I had it. I swear it's been every year for the past like 4 years.
Dude.
The same old story of Joe thinking he's going to win the bracket he entered for money. Then one team just screws it all over.
Almost every year I've been in first place going into the Elite Eight. And somehow my team blows it year after year. I picked Zion losing to Michigan State. Or Duke losing to Michigan State. Oh my gosh.
Don't get me worked. It was Zion losing to Michigan State.
Yeah, but...
All right, so sorry to end that on a bad note for you. Once again, thank you everybody for listening. I do plan on having some bonus episodes coming up. Let me know what you guys thought of Costa and us talking about the Euros. The Euro competition is going on, so I want to keep these weekly episodes with Joe. Then maybe every round I'll have an extra episode with Costa saying how the group stage went, how the previous round went, and just giving our predictions for the future of the tournament. So if you do want to see that, let us know. Once again, thank you guys for listening. Follow us on Instagram at @the_network_pod. Last thing, some things to look forward to. Next 3 or 4 episodes, as we mentioned a couple episodes ago, hopefully music, movie/TV shows, and then figuring out how to get guests so we can have the man, the myth, the legend, Josh Fausti on the podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.
See you next week, guys.